Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Saints win on Sunday at the Dome. They beat Chicago Bears 24-17, but it was certainly by the hardest. It didn't have to be. It's the unfortunate part. The Saints had an opportunity with under 8 to play, up 7 after a turnover, to attempt a 34-yard field goal. They pass on it to go forward on a 4th and 1. They would come back on the next possession after another. They failed on the 4th down conversion, as you know. After another turnover, would come back on a short field. They would attempt a 47-yard field goal that would give them the 2-score lead, and Blake Grupe doinked it, as has kind of become par for the course with Blake Grupe. At this point in the season, it is evident Blake Grupe was the wrong choice. You cut 2 veteran specialists in favor of 2 young specialists, with Grupe and Lou Hedley as your punter. You cut Lutz and Blake Gillikin, and it's just evident that you made the wrong choice on both accounts. Lutz and Gillikin are both with other teams, and you're struggling right now with your young specialists. Blake Grupe is at 78% on field goals for the season. It is unfathomable that an NFL kicker in 2023 be under 80%. It's unfathomable and unacceptable. So 78% makes you among the worst in the NFL. Among qualifying kickers, he is the worst. And meanwhile, Will Lutz is at 86%, 86.7 to be exact. The guy you cut is a full nearly 9 percentage points better right now than the guy you kept. So, what do? You cut Blake Grupe. It's one thing if you had a veteran place kicker who has a long track record of success, who's fighting it a little bit. This isn't the case with Blake Grupe. You went through camp. You settled on the young guy. And I get it with Lutz. Look, you thought Lutz was going to be your guy for a decade. He had a rough season. He had the injury, so he missed a year. Had a rough season, coming back from it. And ultimately, you decided in camp to go with Grupe. Respect. You got to watch these guys at practice. You got to watch them in the preseason, and you made a decision. Tough call, but you made a call. You made the wrong one. So how much more do you let Blake Grupe negatively affect your team before you acknowledge it ain't his time? Not to say it never will be his time, but it ain't his time, clearly. So Dennis Allen on Monday met with reporters and was asked about Blake Grupe. He was asked, this is with the question of if they're bringing in kickers this week.
Are you bringing in any other kickers for a look at?
That's not our plan as of right now, but typically we'll discuss all those things this afternoon.
I'll follow up on that in a second, but Allen had one more comment. He was asked about Blake Grupe's struggles this year. Here's what he said.
This is grown man's league, and so we're not worried about anybody's feelings right now. Look, Blake's got a job to do. He's got to kick it through the post, and he understands that. And look, it's the whole operation. There's a lot of things that go into it. A lot of times, everybody just looks at the field goal kicker and did he make it or not. There's a lot of things that go into that. And I've seen some really good kickers in our league that have had some inconsistencies as a rookie, and teams move on from them and they go to different spots and have great careers. So look, we have confidence in Blake, but yet I think you have to evaluate those things.
It's interesting, the dynamic where Sean Payton was never bashful about his kickers. That was a consistent revolving door with Sean. He just had no patience with them. And Dennis Allen's right. You can't be concerned with somebody's feelings. You have to be evaluated. To his point about kickers who struggled early and went on to have great careers, that's fine, but that doesn't help you now. It's not a program where you're building towards success and you're growing and developing talent. It's also different, like what happened in Cleveland with Cade York. they invested draft capital, a fourth-round pick and a kicker, so they gave him a year plus to try to figure it out, and it consistently didn't go well. So they moved on. You don't have that capital invested in Blake Grupe. You took a shot on the kid, and he's not delivering for you. He's at 78%. Might he catch on and go on and have a long NFL career and be really consistent? Sure. But the Saints right now are 5-4. They're in sole possession of first place in a tightly contested division. I get it. It's not a good division. But as a result of those inconsistencies, you can't afford his misses. I mean, it already cost you on the road in Green Bay. You think back to the 2021 season when you had the revolving door at kicker when Lutz was injured. I mean, that cost you against Tennessee. It cost you against Washington. You can't, in that year, you can't afford to just wait for him to figure it out. It's one thing if he was an 8-year vet whose entire career was above 88% field goals, and he's going through a 2 or 3 game stretch where he's fighting it a little bit. You do what you can to support him and try to get him back on the straight and narrow. But he hasn't shown that he deserves that benefit of the doubt. So then the question always becomes, okay, Matt, well then, if you're going to cut Blake Grupe, who are you going to sign? Okay, well let's look at the list of free agents that are out there among kickers right now in the NFL. If you look at something like Spotrac, they list 23 available kickers, and there's a lot of guys who are really accomplished players in the NFL. Mason Crosby is available after Green Bay let him go after last year. Ryan Suckup, Robbie Gould, Randy Bullock, Zane Gonzalez, Brett Maher, who's been with the Saints prior, that awful year in 2021. Quinn Norton. I mean, you've got kickers available who are accomplished players in the NFL. And maybe it's a situation where you cut Blake Grupe and sign him to your practice squad and sign a veteran kicker that's going to be consistent. I mean, Mason Crosby at 38 years old may not have the leg that he had at 28 years old, but Mason Crosby a year ago with Green Bay hit 86.2% of his field goals. That's 8 percentage points higher than where Grupe is right now. Crosby a year ago, in Green Bay, by the way, where you're kicking outside in the cold, had the same kicking percentage that Will Lutz has right now in Denver. So, you know, and 2 years ago, Crosby was perfect. He was 16 of 16 on his field goal attempts. Mentioned Ryan Suckup, 37 years old, but you look at Suckup, his career field goal percentage is 83%. You know, he kicked last year in Tampa. He was 81.6%. So we've seen a regression. In 2020, he was at 90% the year Tampa won the Super Bowl. Then he went to 83, then 81. So he was regressing, and they let him go. I can understand that, but that's still a better option, a more veteran guy than what you have. You know, Robbie Gould's 40 years old, and he's kicked for two of the most difficult places to kick. He kicked in Chicago and San Francisco, where the wind is crazy in those stadiums. And Robbie Gould's career field goal percentage is 86.5%. Like the Saints right now would kill for 86%, considering what they have with Blake Grupe. So is Robbie Gould going to be someone you trot out there to attempt a 61-yarder? No. But you passed. Look, and Grupe hit a 55-yarder yesterday, but you also passed on an opportunity for a long field goal yesterday and decided to punt instead because you didn't trust your kicker, and so you didn't want to give up that field position. So maybe it's something where you would concede a long field goal to be more confident from 45 and in. I mean, it's an instance where it's a thing that has to be considered. And I'm not telling you that bringing 40-year-old Robbie Gould in is the cure-all, but is that an answer that gets you more consistency? I mean, maybe you wait another week. You know, you have your bye after you play Minnesota, and you're going to play Minnesota in a dome. Man, if you go up to Minnesota and Blake Grupe is your kicker and he misses again, I don't know how you go into your bye before going to Atlanta without going to Atlanta with a new kicker. And I just referenced 3 guys that are all veteran guys who don't have the leg that they once did, aren't going to give you the distance, But my goodness, they're certainly going to give you a more consistent effort from 45 in than you're getting right now with Blake Grupe. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.